Hello everyone, this is Freddie with Superbike Unlimited, and today I've got another update for our KTM 890R project. And you're going to notice in this video, it's not even here. So I'll explain that in a minute, but we have a really nice upgrade. We are really we're juggling a lot of balls right now around here. We've got a Superbike that we're building, of course. If you guys follow that part of the channel, probably most of you are primarily following that part of the channel. We've still got stuff rolling with the KTM. There's a lot of updates on that, on the KTM 450, I mean. And but today we've got some really cool stuff that's going to be prepped in anticipation for the 890 to come back in. The reason I didn't bring the 890 today is I actually keep that one at my house, and is because it is effing cold outside. It was supposed to be kind of a nice day today. I'm sure it will be later on, but when I woke up this morning and checked everything, it was like 30 degrees, and I'm way too much of a weenie to ride below like 60. So anyway, what we're going to do for that reason is we're just going to prep the stuff that we got today, get it ready to go on. So we're just going to get right to it. We got a whole bunch of stuff. So first things first, and we're going to take these out of the box, of course, and show you in detail, but this is a set of Rotobox Bullet wheels. Now I know those are some pretty gnarly looking wheels. A lot of you guys are like, Jesus Christ, look at the spokes on those things. That's something that we've said too. But they've been very robust for us. Other than in drag racing applications, these are not meant for that. They're suitable for pretty much any other usage. You know, I don't know if I'd put one of these on a supermoto that's going to be hitting doubles and stuff like that, but for road racing and road use, they're awesome. And I mean, obviously they're very lightweight. The weight is centralized really well. So, and they have some pretty unique technologies. This is forged carbon, and we'll get some light on that so you can see it better in a moment, but it's just a beautiful finish. And it's a very exotic material that's used in a lot of applications and high levels of motorsport and all kinds of stuff. So, and also, of course, you can see we did some anodizing. I'm not sure if we're going to keep these valve stems orange. I kind of think I should have gone black with those, because they kind of contrast a little bit with the other anodized bits, but I really like these anodized hubs. I think that's going to look really good once it's all set up. And then since we're going to put some new wheels on, I'm going to go ahead and put some new brake discs on. We love Braketech. These are their Cobra series, which is a basically a stainless steel disc versus the ductile iron. I like the irons, but we're just going to try these and see how they are. I've actually never used them, so that'll be cool. And then just for kicks, we're trying out one of Rotobox's sprockets. They have these, they're kind of expensive, but beautifully crafted, and I think that's going to be a nice little touch to go with this thing. It's like a MotoGP style, very lightweight aluminum rear sprocket. So that's that. And then what we're going to do, of course, we got to put tires on there. One thing I want to note, the stock wheel on the 890 is a 5.5. So that's one thing that changes. This rear is only available in a 6. I don't think I would have necessarily chose that option. If I had the choice, I probably would have kept a 5.5, but you know, that's what we've got. So we're gonna have to adapt to that. And with that in mind, we're gonna put on some of these super sticky Pirellis, SC3 rear, SC2 front, gigantic 260 rear. Hopefully that clears the swing arm. We're gonna find out tomorrow. But in the meantime, we're gonna mount all this stuff up. Prior to that, of course, we're gonna pull all this out of the box. We'll weigh everything. We'll get a pretty good idea of what kind of weight we should expect to lose going to this setup. First, we're going to weigh just the wheels, then we'll equip everything and weigh it, you know, fully set up. All right, so we've got the rear wheel here. What I'm going to do is unbox this. There's some other components in here. They generally will hide the sprocket carrier inside this box, so something to keep in mind if you ever buy these. You don't want to just assume that this stuff's not there. Well, we've actually even had some places where like dealerships have thrown this box away, and they throw away a sprocket carrier that's, I don't remember how much it is, but it's not cheap. So anyway, you pull this back here, and that's gonna, there we go, allow this box to unfold as shown, and then you can take the wheel off. We'll just set that back here for now. Nice and easy. And then inside this, there's a thing that says accessories here. Boom. You're gonna want that. So I'll get this opened up, we'll set it up, and we'll start the weigh-in process. All right, so here's our sprocket carrier. The one thing that I've noticed right away, and we noticed it with the sprocket, now we have the answer, and this is one thing that may be a potential downside. is this uses a countersunk style bolt, and you can see the sprocket is countersunk as well. So that part doesn't really matter so much. It's just that means you're going to have some limits with what sprockets you can use. I don't know. We haven't really ever come across this, so surely there's another sprocket out there that's compatible. We'll have to do some research on that. And fortunately, the spec for this sprocket is right here. But it's going to have to use that countersunk head. And we might be able to, we're going to try mocking up some other stuff that uses a conventional head. We might have a low profile head that will allow us to use the other sprockets that we stock. But just something to keep in mind with these, at least you might be limited to a very specific sprocket, and unfortunately kind of an expensive sprocket if it winds up being the Rotobox one only. So these bolts are tie, which is nice. But what we're going to do now is we're just going to go ahead and cut the zip tie off here, and then we can basically get ready to set this whole thing up. They do that for packaging purposes, of course. Little piece of foam in there, you're going to want to pop that out. And so we'll set this up, and we'll weigh it with the sprocket installed, and then we'll. All right. So as I was saying, what we're going to do is we're just going to fit everything on here, and then we'll have an apples to apples comparison. Essentially, what we'll do is take the other wheel with no brake disc on it and weigh it with just the sprocket, and then we'll weigh this one, which is exactly who I've got it configured now. So you can see this is here. We did use a little bit of blue Loctite on there. Those bolts are all nice and torqued down, so we're pretty much set. All we need to fit this is going to be a tire and, of course, a rear rotor, which we don't have something aftermarket on here at the moment. I'm going to look into that a bit and see if we have some options. I don't know right offhand, so if we have something sent from Braketech or somebody else, we'll probably order one and slap that on there. Just for the sake of having some complete sets of wheels should we ever decide to track this thing. Something else I just wanted to point out that I really like about these wheels is they come from the factory with an anti-slip coating on the bead area, and basically what that does is it allows the tire to grip the wheel better. You'll find, especially on higher torque applications, that sometimes the wheel will spin within the tire. So a lot of times we have a way that we treat our race wheels so that doesn't happen. It's nice when you can get a wheel, and from the factory it just comes with that stuff on there, and it works really well. It's kind of like a gritty surface, you know, it feels almost like sandpaper or something like that. That small texture difference makes a big difference in how well the wheel adheres to the tire. So yeah, here we go with this. I'm gonna go ahead and set the scale up, and you can get an idea of how much it weighs. But I gotta say, I think this thing looks awesome. It's gonna be, just from the aesthetics alone, it's gonna be a massive upgrade. The weight is going to really be the icing on top, though, and you can see that forged carbon is just a really nice look. So all right, we're going to get the scale set up now. All right, so we're just going to try to set this right here, make sure we're good and zeroed. What we're going to do is we're just going to set this on here using the spacer. So we'll zero that out just to be safe. Grab this by the sprocket. Hope nothing falls out. Okay. All right, so we've got 4,418 grams, which is 9 pounds, 11.8 ounces. All right, so we've gotten our rear weights recorded and logged, so we'll be able to compare that to the front stuff once we get that pulled off. Now here's our front, so we'll weigh this bare, exactly the way it sits right here, and then we'll weigh it after we fit our brake discs. I'm going to see if we have something that'll that we can replace with tie for those, so we can mount them using tie hardware. But first thing we're going to do is, just like on the other one, cut these zip ties off, and then we'll go ahead and open this up and get it weighed out. And there's probably nothing in this box. Usually there's nothing in the front. Yeah, it looks like that one's empty, so not really a concern here, but if you want to be careful, you can always just check that. All right, so there's our front end of the box, and as you can see, the same very nice forged carbon spoke design. Wheel looks really good. And we still have that anti-slip on the front as well. So that comes on both wheels. The spacers on this guy are already installed, so we're going to go ahead and get ready for our weigh-in. All right, so once again in grams. $26.15. Okay, and then let me write that down. So we've got our gram weight recorded, and then in pounds and ounces, it's 5 pounds, 12.3 ounces. So I've just totaled that, and we have a total weight with the sprocket and hardware on the sprocket, of course, of 15 pounds, 8.1 ounces. So right at 15.5 pounds. All right, so we've got our disc mocked up here. After doing some measurement, this appears to just be an M8 bolt straight through. This is an 8.1 millimeter hole, and of course it's an M8 thread. So we're probably going to use these M8 by 20s, which gives us about 16 millimeters of engagement or so. I think that's going to work just fine, and Tex agrees. So we're just going to go ahead and use these. These are from Zeta. We love their titanium stuff. It's made in Japan, really high quality. So that's what we're going to put on there, and then we'll do a second weigh with everything mounted up. All right, so we've got this all fitted. One thing, when I was mocking those up, before we actually got them all mounted, I was actually putting these in the wrong orientation. So make sure that when you put these on, there's a little arrow right there that shows, forward. And then that's what you use this for. So just make sure that you've got them on the right side, basically. It's pretty simple, but I just wanted to point that out, since when I laid the disc on top of the wheel in that first shot, it was technically on the wrong side. So we've got everything fitted. Looks pretty good, I must say. And now we're going to see what they weigh equipped. It's funny because, as one of the other guys that just worked here pointed out, this probably is double the weight of the wheel, because these are big chunks of steel. But we're about to find out. All right, so we've got this on one of our shipping scales. Now that it's all assembled, it weighs more than 5,000 grams, which is the maximum of our small scale that we use for everything. So with everything fitted, so the difference now being 2 complete sets of rotors, obviously, and 10 titanium bolts and a few droplets of Loctite, we're now at 12 pounds, 3.2 ounces. So that is a pretty considerable increase, obviously. We're more than double. So we'll have to do some calculations and see what our total is, but that is what the front wheel weighs complete, ready to go on, obviously with no tire. Okay, so I've totaled up everything, and those 2 wheels complete without tires weigh 21 pounds and 15 ounces. So we'll see how that stacks up to the stock stuff. So essentially, actually, now that I think about it, I doubt we're gonna even pull the wheels off the stock one. So what we'll do next is we'll see what the weights are of the wheels with tires, so we can just pull the stock stuff off, weigh it, and then compare that to this. I don't really want to deal with pulling tires off the stock wheels, because I might wind up using those. So we have the raw weights anyway. Actually, you know what, we probably will pull them off, just because I want to be as complete as possible. So yeah, forget that, I was being lazy, but we're gonna pull them off. We want to know what the raw differences are, so we'll figure that out. And then what we're also going to do is, while we're at this, we're pursuing all this lightness. So we've got some other components. We've got our 3D chain. This is a 3D GP. This is the lightest chain that we offer. They're very strong. We use them on our super bikes, and basically it's a chain that's got machined individual links. There's holes in the center link, and you can see there's a machined pocket on each one. They're just maximized in terms of weight reduction. They work really well. We've never had one fail. There's a lot of different kinds of 3D chains out there. It's important that you get the one that's appropriate for your bike. The GP is great for really any 600cc plus applications. That's what we use. We also have a specific one for supermoto use now. We were using the GP on that one, but now we have this supermoto chain. It makes more sense. They're less expensive. They weigh a little bit less, and they don't have quite as high of a tensile strength, but we don't need that since it's a 450 single, making far less torque than something like this, or a Superbike 890, whatever. So anyway, we're gonna run that, and then we're gonna run one of these front sprockets. I'm gonna kind of figure out when I'm riding into work tomorrow if I want to shorten it up any, or if I'm just gonna keep the stock option. But we're gonna use these super light units. These are just a great sprocket because they're very durable. They've once again been maximized in terms of weight reduction, and look at these guys. They put Superbike Unlimited right on the label. I mean, that's just, that in itself means that this is the best one. It has Superbike Unlimited on it, so that's proof that this is the best you can get. So we're gonna put that on, and then once we're done with all this stuff, we will do a complete weigh-in on the bike again and just see what's our net result here. So hopefully it's a pretty big chunk. All right, everyone, so we've got the KTM in here today, so we're going to be able to start chipping away at this upgrade process. Something else we're going to do, a lot of you guys were going crazy that there's still a foot peg on this thing. Jesus Christ, man, what's wrong with you? Take that off. It's like, well, I mean, it serves a purpose, folks. I don't know if you see this. There's this thing right here. This is actually very important to the motorcycle. It's the exhaust system. And generally speaking, it's just a personal preference, but I like this to be secured to the motorcycle. It makes it last a lot longer, and it keeps it attached. So for those of you who are so concerned about that, don't worry. It's something we also noticed that was there, and I wanted to fix that too. So we're going to work on that today, so you guys can sleep easily tonight. What we've got is the first generation of this bike did not have foot pegs. So there's a very handy little OEM bracket basically that you can buy. It's probably the part number right there if you guys are curious. And we saw that, so we ordered one of these from Eurosport, our local KTM dealer. We're going to pop that on there. We got some hardware that goes with it. Of course, we're going to sub those out for tie bolts. There's some stuff sitting here. We're going to see if which ones are going to work. But so we're going to put that on. That should save a little bit of weight, and we'll then of course complete our upgrade package with our wheels, gearing, brakes, everything. So we also may try to de-ABS this bike today. We're going to see if we have lines that may work. If not, we're going to go ahead and measure them up and get something ordered, but that's something else. I don't like the ABS. We're not really sure what's going to happen if we take it off, so what we're going to do is remove it in a way that it can be put back on. Like, we're not going to destroy the hard lines or anything like it, like we may do on a bike like an R1 or something, where we're just ripping it out of there. We know it's never going back in. In this case, we'll probably be a little more ginger and try to be cautious just in case it breaks something on the motorcycle, like the auto blipper or quick shifter or something. So we'll find out about that in a bit. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to weigh this so we can compare how much have we saved. 134 grams, 135 we'll see, 135 grams for this, complete with the rubber bushing inside. All right, so Tex actually just did a preliminary weigh-in on this, and it's looking pretty promising. So we'll just do a quick before and after. 135 grams and 897 grams. So that is a seriously beefy piece. We'll hang on to that in case I ever decide to do any 2-ups, but I don't see that going back on anytime soon. So now this one goes on. All right, so now we have the new bracket in place. Looks a lot better, I must say. I think that's a huge improvement. You're going to notice that we don't have our tie-in. Those are some kind of long M8 bolts. We have a pretty good stash of M8, but nothing quite that long. I think it was like a 55 or something like that. So we're going to go ahead and order those, and we'll swap them out once we get them. But in the meantime, big improvement there. And I also, while he was doing that, since we're going to do a chain and sprocket kit, I went ahead and took this, like, I don't know what, it's not even a chain guard, but whatever you want to call that thing to stop it from flinging chain grease everywhere. Just, I don't like the way they look. So pulled that off. Probably doesn't weigh very much, but at least makes the bike look a little bit better. All right, so we're going to weigh in this complete wheel, and then we'll do the same thing with the other wheel going on. So obviously we do have to consider that this wheel is half an inch narrower. We're using a 180/55 factory size tire. That weighs in at 32 pounds, 2.4 ounces. And then next we're going to put the other wheel on. We're going to have to transfer this disc because our friends at one of our distributors, who I'm not going to throw under the bus quite yet, we overnighted a lightweight rotor. The assholes sent it ground. So, excuse my language, the buttholes sent it ground. And so we're going to have to use this for now, and then next week or something we'll put the other one on. All right, so we've got this fitted with our super heavy rear disc on there, and that a certain unnamed distributor screwed up. And what we've got is a weight of 1.0 ounces. So I think I need to go back and look at the weight. I should have written that down, but I'm pretty sure it was 32. So we've got, and 3 ounces. So we've got 5 pounds, 2 ounces saved on just the rear. And I expect us to drop another pound or so once we put that other rotor, because there was very little to that thing. So we'll see once that gets here. All right, so Tex has got this already mocked up in the rear here. We are going to make a gearing change. I really don't know if it's a good idea or not because the bike to me feels pretty torquey, but I want to see what it feels like if we ramp it up just a scotch. So we're going to go ahead and add a tooth to the rear. We're going to go with that 42, and we're going to run a 16 up front, which is -1. And of course, like I mentioned, we are using much lighter components. We've got the stock chain felt very heavy. We didn't weigh it just yet. We probably won't, honestly, but because we need to cut the links out of this, it's a whole thing. But anyway, it felt pretty heavy to be a 520, and of course this is much lighter because it doesn't have all this damping and stuff. I'm going to probably just leave that cover off as well. Something else, if you did want to keep your stock chain intact, if you do something like this, you can take off the rear sets kit, and it allows you to not have to cut that chain. That's what we did in this case, in case we decide to ever put this thing back to stock one day. And we're going to run the wheelbase back a little, since I am going to run a slightly torquier configuration. For one, I want to have the adjustment to move to a 16 tooth back here if we need to, and on the other hand, I want to we're gonna have to keep this rearward just to stop the thing from wheeling so much, and if it slides, it'll be a little easier to control with that longer wheelbase. And with the stock wheelbase anyway, we were touching the hugger with this gigantic tire. I mean, that thing, I don't know if you can really get the effect, but it looks really huge compared to what was on there. So it's pretty cool looking. And I think honestly, this wheel set, it just makes sense because when you look at the design of the spokes, it's very similar to the OE design. I mean, it's almost identical, you know? It's kind of cool in that regard. This is like, this wheel set was meant to be for this motorcycle, so I don't think you could really find a better set. Next, we're gonna wrap up this install, and we'll do another weigh-in, see where we end up. Be cool to see what the front looks like as well. All right, so we've got this 3D chain in place. We're going to go with the gold one. I just think they look nice. It always goes well with pretty much anything. And actually, all right, so we've got our front wheel ready to go. This guy weighs 25 pounds, 5.1 ounces, as you can see there. So that's fully, you know, basically ready to rip stock front wheel. Now, we are going to remove this speed sensor ring over to the other wheel, and then we'll weigh that guy in. All right, so we're gonna weigh in the front now, and this is obviously complete, ready to go on. We've got 21 pounds and 10.3 ounces. So need to go back and watch this video and see what the delta is there. All right, so we've gotten our wheel install done. I do want to comment about the gearing. We wound up having to change the plan a little bit. We went back to the 16 tooth because we really couldn't get the final ratio that we wanted with 1641. So what I may do is go to a 15 here and a 40 here to give us the same effective overall length. And that would kind of allow us to stay where we are. But yeah, I couldn't get it. We couldn't get the adjustment range that we wanted with the other ratio. It was just a little too loose on the back end. And obviously this being a brand new change, it's going to stretch a little. So that was a bit of an issue, but man, this thing looks fantastic now. I love this look. It's certainly blacked it out a little more with the carbon rim, but I think it looks really aggressive. So we're going to do some other small adjustments, do a weigh-in, and I think I'm going to take this thing for a test drive. All right, so we're going to get ready to weigh this thing in. We did go ahead and add our easy grip on here. I think this is going to be nice. This is a universal one they send. I kind of just cut it up with some scissors. It's not perfect, but looks okay. It looks a lot better than it did. It had the big piece that kind of flared out and it wouldn't have worked. So, and there is another little bit they give you for right here. I just don't think it's necessary, so we're going to leave that off. But the moment of truth has arrived. We're going to see where we're at. Do you need me to?
Yeah, put your foot in front of that one.
All right. Let's turn it on. It's good.
Must have turned itself off.
All right. All right, so we are weighing in and we are at 363. Pretty hefty weight reduction, I must say. I think we were at 380 something before.
384 with the, we had 410 originally, 384 with our first round of reductions, and now down to 363.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we've knocked 46 pounds off. So yeah, saved 46 pounds and looking a lot better in the process. Okay, and with that weigh-in, I think that's going to be a wrap for this first video. We're going to have some other updates and some enhancements coming very, very soon. So we're going to try to release this second video quite quickly. But I think that's going to do it. So we really appreciate you coming along for the ride with this one. I think the bike's really coming along nicely. I'm really into